for decades, longevity research, has been on the table. We have been learning so much about genetics, epigenetics, and maybe a miracle drug could come in a few years or decades, a bit more potentially. But year by year, I started not believing in that so much. What I believe in now more is that we have now a practical side of longevity. So every year I have a very dedicated primary care physician, and for since I became the medical futurist, I've been testing a range of digital health, wearable devices, AI-based technologies, genetic services, you name it, I've tested them for a reason. I wanted to understand, what challenges patients or physicians go through, or how developers and inventors might come across obstacles while they're creating a product for patients and physicians. So I've been doing all that. But for about 7 or 8 years, every January, I sit down with my primary care physician to create a preventive plan. And I think this is the year when we came to the realization that some of the screenings I will do this year is part of me becoming 40. All right. Some of the supplements I take is about general sense about health and the healthy lifestyle. But now we have a practical side of longevity, things I can start doing from today to have a chance for at least life until 80 or 100 in a general, good uh, stage of health. And I'm very happy to dedicate a lot of resources to that. So not just time and energy, but even money, my own privacy, sometimes my blood or other tissue samples from my body. I'm happy to do that because I want to have a chance for a long and healthy life. So that's now the practical side of longevity. And I think there have been a few recent breakthroughs, not in the way in life sciences or research, but in the way the general public thinks about longevity. And I think Brian Johnson has been doing an important job in that respect. Dr. Attila's book, Outlive, is another great example. Even Eric Topel now came up with a book about longevity, as far as I know, or what we can do about all that coming out this year. So it seems that the walls of mainstream are being broken down by the practical examples of longevity, and maybe it's not just about healthy lifestyle anymore, but a bit more than that, because of course we have been knowing for decades what kind of unhealthy habits we should avoid doing in our lives, from smoking to alcohol or not moving, not exercising enough. But it seems like we haven't won that challenge, right? Because still billions, if not just hundreds of millions, but billions of people are still doing many of these unhealthy habits. So we have to raise the stakes here and start persuading people that it's one thing to think about living a healthy lifestyle today, but if you could have better deals with your future selves, then what you actually do is that you're building a longevity, a potential for longevity for your next decades or so. And that would definitely be a new perspective for billions out there.
What is your future self going to say about your behaviors today? Well, if it's eating chips and smoking cigarettes and not going for a daily walk, that future self is going to be pretty disappointed about your choices today. And so if you think about these types of decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis with your future self in mind, you're very likely going to make some healthier choices.
I'm so glad that you were saying that. The other day I had a short discussion with my future self. Like I 40, I started to think about myself at 80, and literally, I can count like how many gym sessions I would have until then. So I sort of asked my future self, how would you feel about you being able to say that I have done like 50,000, like 30,000 gym sessions just because you can be here at the age of 80 with that level of lifestyle and health and everything. And it made my future self so proud, and it felt good to me that one day I might be able to say that. And of course, maybe some people think I'm crazy a little bit about discussing this thing with the future self. Maybe I won't even live until then. Maybe I will live to 100. I don't know. But what matters to me is that if my 80 years old self could say that I'm proud of you, my 40-year-old self, it would make me absolutely happy and satisfied. So I will keep on doing that until I can reach that stage.
Percy, I'm telling you, the part about the future self and the psychology of future thinking is the most important part of your book, as far as I'm concerned. I've read a bunch about the future and forecasting and being a futurist, but this part of your book is so, so important. And so as I think about it, I don't just think about my future self, but I think about my future selves' relationships with my daughters and their community. And I think that's so important. And so that's really, really motivating. I don't want to just make it to 100. I want to make it to 100 and be able to travel with my daughters will be in their 60s probably, or late 50s. So I'm quite a bit older than they are. And that is what inspires me to do a lot of the things and make a lot of the choices that I'm making today. So what you've done in that part of the book is so, so important. And I can't stress that enough.
It warms my heart so much. Thank you so much for saying that. To be honest with you, the one thought that made me make the decision to write this book when I didn't even know what exactly I will include in the book was while I had a running session, and I started thinking about if I'm a good enough parent. And it was a very important discussion with my present self, of course. And I had to come to the conclusion that, well, let's use vision writing. What if my daughter is 18, so her brother is 11, and they're having a discussion about me, like what kind of experiences they had when they were 8 and 1. And of course, I have data on that because I live with them, so I know what kind of things we are doing together, from homework to fun stuff, how we love video games because I love them, and baseball and stuff like that. So I had data and I started creating these discussions. And of course, I cannot know now what they will discuss then, but I can guess. And based on how I guessed, I started coming up with ideas about what more I could do with them now. So then they might even be happier about having me as a father back then. Hopefully, I will be alive then, so we will have even more newer experiences then. But that was my way of thinking, and I was very happy about it because it gives you like a sense of timelessness, no matter how weird it sounds in the age of short-term thinking. And what I love about because timelessness is not something futurists have come up with. It's called the Wakapapa in the Maori culture. It has been around for centuries, if not millennia. And the idea is that the generations before me and after me and this generation right now, we are working together. We are hand in hand working for the greater good. And I'm nothing without my past generations, without my ancestors, and I will be nothing without impacting my future generations. So all this should be in our minds while making decisions in politics, in geopolitics, in personal lives, in hobbies. All this comes together when we understand that we are not just in one point of history, but we are having an influence on what will come after us if we acknowledge this timelessness aspect of our relationship with time.